There's a ton of advice out there on how to make the best YouTube thumbnails that promise to get you the most views. If you're a full-time content creator, chances are you don't have time to sort through all of these tutorials and try everything to see what works. So, we analyzed all ThinkMedia thumbnail videos, and there are dozens of them, so you can get the best tips and tricks in creating YouTube thumbnails in less than 10 minutes. Let's get started. The first thing you need to keep in mind is to create with intention. You really need to put in some thought and effort into making your thumbnails. They can't just be an afterthought. It's one of the first things people will see before they click on your video. So you need to make sure that it's something people will want to click on. This means you have to start with the end in mind and really think about every single element on the thumbnail. The background, the text, the logos and objects and images, the people. Are there going to be people on the thumbnail? Ideally, yes. It just seems to work out better that way according to Netflix. We'll get to that in another video, but if you're going to have people on your thumbnail, you need to plan a shoot for that. You can even dedicate a day just for shooting the thumbnails for all the videos you're going to upload that week. Once you have everything planned, the next step is to choose your setup. The beauty of this is you can absolutely take great pictures for your thumbnails regardless of whether you're using a fancy setup or your smartphone. That said, there are a couple things you can do to elevate the quality of your pictures. First is to change the aspect ratio from 4:3 to 16:9, because that is the aspect ratio of a YouTube thumbnail. Next, if you're using a DSLR camera, set it to the aperture priority and choose somewhere between f4 or f5.6. You can also do this on your smartphone with the Pro mode. Alternatively, you can use portrait mode, which will give you similar depths of field. What this does is it adds some nice blur to your background and makes the subject pop like this. Speaking of backgrounds, make sure to keep it nice and simple. If you look at these two pictures, the subject on the right stands out more because there's zero clutter in the background. Or maybe that's just because she's way cuter. Who knows? I'm kidding, but keep your background clean. If you're shooting in your home studio, this gray off-white situation is a great default background. Or if you're shooting outdoors, find a plain but vibrant wall like this. Either way, once you've got your camera settings optimized, it's time to shoot like you mean it. First, make sure you follow the rule of thirds and position the subject, which in most cases is going to be you, on the right side of the frame, not the left, not the middle. This is because when you upload your video, the time code will appear in the lower right of the thumbnail, which means any text you put in your thumbnail should ideally be on the left side. This will keep things looking tidy. Now, let's talk about poses. If you're liking these tips and tricks so far, make sure to subscribe and share this video. What really sells a thumbnail more than just having a person on it itself is that person showing emotion.
Emotions.
As humans, we naturally respond to faces, especially those showing complex emotions. So, if you want your thumbnail to really connect and make people want to click it, you're gonna have to be creative and expressive. Stare right into the camera to connect with the viewer, or look to the left to direct their attention to the text or object over there. You can also use your hands to direct attention or convey action.
Action makes you intrigued. You know, it looks like a frame from the video where he's actually climbing this ice mountain, and this makes you very intrigued and makes you think this is what you are actually going to see in the video.
If you're feeling a bit self-conscious making these wacky faces on camera, that's fine. You can totally shoot by yourself. Just set your camera on a tripod, turn the screen towards you so you can see how you look, and get to shooting. Here's another tip. Do not set your camera on a timer. It's going to be exhausting having to run back and forth after every shot. If you don't have a remote clicker, just set your camera to record video. Do as many poses as you want. In fact, it's always better to overshoot because you don't want to end up not having enough decent shots to choose from. And make sure to check your shots before you pack up. Otherwise, you might end up like Ryan Trahan, who had to reshoot his thumbnail underwater at 3 a.m. because he didn't check his first shots immediately and ended up with blurred, unusable shots. Thankfully, his reshoot went way better than the first one and he ended up with this, which he turned into this. So overshoot and check. Always. Once you're done, just open the files on your computer and select the frames that look great, not just composition-wise, but also convey the emotions you want your viewers to feel, because those are what will resonate best. Once you've picked the one, it's time to edit. Just like you don't have to use your DSLR to take a great thumbnail pic, you also don't have to use Photoshop to edit and design your thumbnail. You can use apps like Canva or even Instagram Stories. But again, there are some general rules you need to follow, and it all boils down to one thing. Your thumbnail needs to be easy to see. On a desktop, that thumbnail will only be 3 inches big, and on a smartphone, half that. According to thumbnail expert Jay Alto, ideally your thumbnail should only have 3 elements: a face, an image, and some text. And all these elements will have to be big and clearly defined. For example, when it comes to your picture, you don't have to show your whole body on the thumbnail, or your torso for that matter. Viewers want to see emotion, so zoom in on your face as much as you can. When you're adding an object, make that as big as you can as well, but leave ample space for any text you're going to add. Then add some text, no more than 5 words. You don't even have to use words from your title. Say something that will get people curious, like this, or this, or this, or this. Make sure you're using fonts that are simple and easy to read. The next step is to make everything stand out, which can mean something as simple as doing a shadow effect with the text, changing the background of the image, and adding a glow behind your object. And, for good measure, increase the vibrance of your image. Heck, oversaturate it a little to really make things pop. Once you're done, shrink your thumbnail to about 1.5 inches. If you can still clearly see and read everything, you're good to go. The best part is, you can try these strategies on your old videos too. Sometimes, all it takes to bump up the views on your old YouTube videos is recreating the thumbnail, like what YouTuber @Diltoma did. Or you could just ditch these tips altogether. That's absolutely an option. Remember, these are just tips and tricks, not hard and fast rules, especially in a fast-changing space like YouTube. These thumbnails are the opposite of clean, simple, and easy to see. They bent so many rules, but managed to get millions of views. Some ThinkMedia thumbnails don't even show people. They used variations of this stock photo from Unsplash.com to create thumbnails for 3 different videos. There are so many different ways you could go about in making a YouTube thumbnail. At the end of the day, what's important is that your thumbnail connects with your audience and makes them want to click on your video. So you really need to figure out what works for your audience. Unfortunately, you don't really have that long to do it. According to Netflix, while thumbnails take up 82% of users' focus while browsing Netflix, they only look at each thumbnail for less than 2 seconds before deciding whether to click on it. If you want to know more about how Netflix picks thumbnails, watch this next video.